Here's the bad news. Josh Sargent, he missed Saturday's game for Norwich City with a groin injury. We found out in the days since he's going to undergo surgery and going to miss up to 8 weeks. Sargent been having a pretty good start to the campaign, 4 goals and 5 assists so far in league play this season. This, of course, means he will miss the November games with the U.S. men's national team. Herc, how big a problem is Josh Sargent's injury here for Mauricio Pochettino and the rest of the U.S. staff?
Well, not that big of a problem for the U.S. men's national team staff because Josh Sargent hasn't provided or proven that it would be a problem if he's not around. That's a reality. 2022 World Cup, he was a starting 9. Post-World Cup Qatar, he's played mop-up time, Copa America, a few minutes here and there, and nothing to really say he's proven or has had a good run of games. And it's always because of his health. So no matter how well he does at the championship, Seb, no matter how good he's proven at the club level, how useful he could be in that 9 position, facilitating and putting the ball in the back of net in a very consistent manner, one of the best players in the championship. Not my opinion, simple numbers. He gets injured at the most impromptu times, the craziest times when you think a player has to be there. You have to be available for the national team. He's not been available, so it doesn't matter how good he is, how talented he is, and I've maintained about his talents and how talented he is in this group of players. If you can't prove to be a player that's on the field and dependable beyond the field, you're never going to show how good you are. So how big of a deal is it for Mauricio Pochettino? It's not, because he's not proven it to be a big deal.
I mean, he did choose Josh Sargent in his first window as the first guy to start. You don't think he'd like to see him again? I do agree with you that this is a bigger problem for Josh Sargent than the U.S. men's national team, but I think it's somewhat of a problem for the U.S. That's a super important position that has yet to be locked down, and at least on first impression, we would have thought Pochettino liked Sargent a lot.
Yeah, more of a problem if it's Farland Balogun, more of a problem if it's Haji Wright, if it's Ricardo Pepi at this stage, because if you look at the body of work, I maintain how talented this kid is, but it's not about being talented. It's not about doing all the little things at your club when it comes to the national team. It's about once you put that jersey on for the national team, what you can do for the national team. And very similar to Tyler Adams, it doesn't matter how good you are if you can't be trusted, if you're not dependable to be on the field. And that's where Josh Sargent is today. I mean, he doesn't have the equity of a Tyler Adams, you know? He's got a very good resume at the championship level, but there are players right now in that 9 position who are begging for an opportunity to be the number 9 of this U.S. men's national team, and Josh Sargent opened the door for him. Yeah, man, so injury prone, and like we've talked about that with a lot of guys in this pool, young players who maybe as they start to accrue more and more minutes, they hit these injuries. When you talk about Josh Sargent now, we're going to talk about his career at the end of the career and be like, there was some real huge opportunities missed. You talked about the 2022 World Cup. I think his 2026 World Cup is in danger here. Pochettino doesn't have a lot of time. And so every window that ticks off, the last one ticked off, he had the opportunity and didn't take it. This next window is going to tick off, and he's not going to be there to potentially take the opportunity. Somebody, you got to figure, one of these other 9s, because I know there's not a guy, but there's a lot of guys, and one of them's going to catch fire, one of them's going to impress Pochettino, and that's going to cost Sargent. Maybe it won't cost him a spot on the World Cup team, but this kid could have been a starter. He could have been the guy at the number 9. And these injuries, this timing, I think when we start factoring and thinking ahead towards 2026, it's just really hard to imagine him at this point overcoming this injury and then the other 1, 2, 3, 4 guys that are in that pool with him. I don't want to write him off, but it kind of feels like at some point the U.S., when we get to these guys, sometimes it was Tyler Adams, like you mentioned. Now it's Josh Sargent. You got to start looking for Plan B. And the Plan B here would actually be Plan A. You can go down the list. Giovanni Reyna, Matt Turner. We can go down a long list of players who
But
don't have
the difference is you could make the argument.
This was Timothy Weah, by the way, also 2 months ago.
You could make the argument with all those guys, Matt Turner, that he was head and shoulders above the other guys. With Gio Reyna, you can make the argument that he's head and shoulders above the other guys. Josh Sargent doesn't have that. He doesn't have that because he's injured all the time, but he also doesn't have it, Herc, frankly, because as much as you love him and everybody else loves him, he hasn't delivered for the national team.
He hasn't proven it. That said, not one single 9 has proven it.
Okay.
That's why it's frustrating for Josh Sargent here, because he's still in that mix. And like you said, Pochettino chose him out of those 9s in the first window to be his starter. He didn't produce, but he was chosen. So in a world where not one single 9 has taken hold that position, has said, this is mine, I'm not letting it go, the way a Josie Altidore did, the way a Brian McBride did, the way Eric Winaldo did, these players of the past, they've not done it, and the door is open. So right now we're talking about Haji Wright. Right now we're talking about Ricardo Pepi, who, by the way, has his own problems trying to get on the field. Haji Wright has his own problems trying to play as a 9. He's been playing as a winger, for both club
that's the
and
thing.
country now.
If we start thinking about November, you've got Josh Sargent out past November. He's going to probably not be back till January.
What's a surgery?
It's not on a muscle.
On a muscle.
That's a conversation we'll probably have down the road when we talk about his potential comeback. You got Balogun out with a shoulder injury.
Balogun's out.
Of course, the options now are kind of default options. Like you mentioned, it's Haji Wright, who basically has played winger for the national team, has been viewed as that. It's Ricardo Pepi, who hasn't really started anywhere, and when he started for the national team, certainly hasn't proven that he can be that guy. He can be a good sub.
He's a tricky guy.
But he hasn't proven to be the starter yet.
Proven it.
And then, do we throw Brandon Vasquez in the pool at this point?
Brandon Vasquez.
I don't know if he's a national teamer.
He's not a Monterrey starter at the moment. So
okay.
Well,
those are your 3 guys for Jamaica. Who are you going with?
Let me add.
You false 9 in it?
Let me add another player who's been doing very well in a hybrid. And I say hybrid, but the way he moves in and around the box like a 9, who's been doing very well right now, who's Timothy Weah.
Okay.
Now, Timothy Weah.
Okay. All right, false 9. I like what you're doing.
It's not even a false 9. A false 9 would be Christian Pulisic.
Okay.
Because those are tendencies of a false 9. This would be a 9, an out-of-position 9, not a false 9. He's going to play as a 9 because he runs like a 9. He does the movements of a 9. He's got the finishing ability as of late as of 9. No Folarin Balogun, no Josh Sargent. Haji Wright's been playing as a winger. Ricardo Pepi hasn't been playing at all. But both players, Haji Wright and Ricardo Pepi, when given an opportunity for club and country, have produced in their own right. So something to keep an eye on right there. I
like what you're putting down. I like Weah because it's a solution to getting another talented player on the field.
Let me stop you real quick. That's if these 2 players aren't hot. I'm not touching Weah if these 2 players are hot.
All right.
Right now, it's hot hand. And I think Haji Wright's going to have the upper hand here.
Okay.
Because he's on the field a lot more. And Haji Wright, I don't know what the situation is or was at his club where he wasn't playing for those string of games. But when he plays, it doesn't matter where he is on the field, what position, what work you give him to do, he finds ways to impact the game. We've seen it for a club. We've seen it for country. U.S. men's national team Copa America lead up, when everybody was struggling against Colombia, he comes on the field, he makes something happen. When Jamaica was about to bounce the U.S. men's national team out of the CONCACAF Nations League semifinal in Dallas, who comes to the rescue? It's Haji Wright. Who's the last 9 to score in a World Cup? It's Haji Wright. So we've all looked past Haji Wright. Haji Wright's the one who keeps saying, I'm here. Stop looking past me. So give him an opportunity, give him a run, see what he can or can't do. And then, because of the lack of playing time, if not, you go default Ricardo Pepi.
All right, so there you have it. Haji Wright, Ricardo Pepi, maybe Brandon Vasquez, maybe Timothy Weah, all options for the starting number 9 job in the November window when the U.S. men's national team is going to face off against Jamaica.